morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are here on this planet Earth. My name is Adam-Antium, you are the audience, and welcome to another edition of AAUTZM Podcast. Now, from the description, you'll be able to see that I've once again rebooted the Q&A format, so I'm going to be taking my time with your questions here today. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we'll just plough right through them. But just a few announcements that I need to get out of the way first. The usual one, for those of you listening to this on YouTube right now, my podcasts also exist on talkshoe.com. Down below in the video description, you'll find a link to the call series where you can listen to and download the full podcast for free in MP3 format, so you can do that there. Also, when it comes to YouTube, the recent videos that I've been uploading lately are a series of short films, each one of them under 5 minutes long. It's essentially a trilogy, and the first two chapters of that are up on YouTube. The first one, chapter 1, was called Pyrrhic Victory. Chapter 2 was called 180 Degrees. That I released quite recently. And the third and final chapter for this short film series is going to be called Threshold. And it's going to basically draw a close to the whole Peter Hicks saga sort of thing. And even though there's ways that I can expand further into it, because this is just a small part of the story that I had in mind. There's, other people involved, and we can see like their sides of it. But that being said, that film hasn't started its principal photography yet. I'm still in the process of writing it and getting locations in mind. Once I get my new car, which hopefully I'll be getting in the next month or so, I'm going to be able to travel to the filming locations at the time of night that I need to do it. I've got a couple of people on board who said they're going to be helping out. I need to construct props. I need to, put things together for set pieces, and it's going to be an interesting one. It kind of makes me regret the fact that I said that each one of them is going to be no more than 5 minutes in length. However, the reason for the shortened time span is really to appeal to a wider audience who may not have enough time, or maybe the patience to go through maybe a feature-length film, which I could do if I had the time to the time to make it. But altogether, it's going to be under 15 minutes, and there's one more announcement for those. Besides, asking you guys to, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you'll be able to get the updates for, this podcast, in addition to the final chapter of the film. You can find me at youtube.com/AAUTZM. Basically, that's my YouTube channel, so you can find that there. But the final announcement, just for the short film, is there's a possibility that I might be having this short film series screened at a certain festival this year. I'm going to see if I can get it screened at least one. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say for that, because things aren't set in stone, and the festival itself isn't until October, so I've got plenty of time to get this film finished. But yeah, there's that. The usual plug that the other usual plug that I want to give out every single time is for the free book that you can download for free, or you can buy a paperback version of, is The Zeitgeist Movement Defined. It's essentially the orientation guide to provide all the details for exactly what the Zeitgeist movement advocates and calls for. You can go to www.thezeitgeistmovement.com/orientation, and you'll find all the details that you need to get hold of a copy. You can either just download a PDF of it for free, or if you want, I think it's on Amazon and Lulu.com, and you can buy a paperback version if you are so inclined. I myself, I got a paperback version that I bought at one of the London events, and it's a very, very interesting book, very, very interesting. So basically, if you want to know exactly what the Zeitgeist movement advocates, and you can deal with reading a little bit, then by all means find that. Other things, there's a possibility that I could be giving a presentation or a talk at a different kind of festival. I'm not going to be giving out too many details, because it's an informal arrangement at the moment on behalf of someone who helps organise it. So, and I don't know whether I'll be able to have whether I have my car in time to be able to travel up there. So it's up in the air at the moment, and I don't know whether it's going to be going ahead, but it will be going ahead before my next podcast. So just keep in mind that it's going to be happening then, and I should, if it has happened, then I'll give you some updates next time on that one. One more announcement before I have to explain about the sponsorship situation. I'm thinking of making a new free hugs video. Okay, a few months ago I compiled all the best of the free hugs that I gave out in Maidstone, Brighton, and Eastbourne. You can find that on YouTube. But I've been thinking that I really do need to, at least do one more of these videos and vary the amount of places that I go to. So I've thought about maybe through the course of about 5 weeks, every Saturday for each week, I choose somewhere in the southeast of England, somewhere that's big enough to have a big high street where I won't be in anyone's way. I'll just be able to set up my camcorder there and just stand there with a sign to give out free hugs. I'll go to places like that where I can, spread a bit of love, giving out free hugs and help brighten people's day, and as a result, make another montage video of it, very much like the Free Hugs campaign, where I got the idea from to begin with. They do like montage clips of loads of different hugs, and I defy anyone to not completely grin like an idiot while watching one of these videos. Sometimes they're videos that make some people cry. Even it makes me cry sometimes. But I've got to be a man. But anyway, like I said, I'm going to be making another one of those in the near future. So if you let me know if you live in the southeast of England and you want to get involved and you want to give out free hugs and be featured in the video as well. But anyway, there's that. But it is, unfortunately, my task to inform you that Printernet, our sponsor that I advertised on the last podcast, is now no longer our sponsor for the following 2 reasons. Number 1, they've checked our sponsorship history and can't put the future of their company at stake since I'm a high-risk client. And 2, they suspect that I'm actually connected with this bald man who keeps taking my sponsors out. The identity of which has still eluded me. I'm currently playing the long game with a woman in the data department of GCHQ. So the intel is coming. Okay, it is coming. So, this podcast is brought to you by Star Spangled Service, a company that provides celebrity-styled funerals for the right price, of course. Following the truly massive success of their 4th of July offer, where the Abraham Lincoln package was especially popular, Star Spangled Service has decided to open the floodgates of possibility and work towards making your dream funeral a reality. Special features include the Jimmy Cagney package, complete with a rubber face mask and custom obituary notice claiming that you were Jimmy himself. So, for more details, please visit www.starspangled.service.com/discount offer and enter the code name BJM and get 15% off of an optional spring-loaded backplate to give your relatives one final scare during your open-top coffin viewing. So, choose Star Spangled Service for the celebrity in all of us. Anyway, that's the commercials out of the way. So, Q&A. This is something that I saw recently with the Global Radio Show. It was both Matt Berkowitz and Ben McLeish who did a wonderful job at answering some more questions, and that sort of really kicked me into gear to think to myself, do you know what? The next show that I'm going to do, I'm going to kick my Q&A shows back into existence. I mean, I only did 7 of them, so there's about 7 hours worth of me answering questions that people have sent me. So how come I haven't? How come I've been lax in the Q&A department? Well, it's partly because I've been interviewing other people and doing other theme shows, and I haven't really got round to it. So with that negligence in mind, Adam, I've got the next Q&A show for you right here. So I'm going to waste no more time and actually get into the nitty-gritty of your questions. So here we go. Question 1. Does personal property exist in a natural law model? This question is actually 3 questions in one that this person has sent. Question number 2. Say I want a private garden to grow my own food as I see fit. Where do the limits of personal property rest? And where do the limits of personal property rest? And the third question, can someone collect baseball cards, keep their property for personal uses, or would we share everything, even down to the hair comb? Okay, right, so 3 separate questions there. First one, does personal property exist? I'd say it does and it doesn't. I mean, in a resource-based economic model, the idea of personal property being eradicated or outlawed, or anything like that. Instead of that, we just make it obsolete. Think of it, because a lot of people sort of misunderstand the idea of where TZM stands on the issue of personal property and access to resources and things like that. That we think that it's either personal property or it belongs to everyone. But you don't necessarily even have to go that far, because you don't necessarily have to consider anything in terms of property, because how can anyone own what is on the planet for all to use? I mean, how can any human being make an ownership claim about anything that exists within reality without restricting it for other people? But really, the idea isn't that the monetary system needs to be abolished or scarcity needs to be abolished. What it really is that we just make it obsolete. We innovate our way out of the situation. Think about it this way: if you're walking home in the snow, right? So you're on foot and you're nearly home and you're walking through the snow or there's a thick rain or whatever. Why have you got the thick coat on? Well, because you need to protect yourself from the elements, right? Because, you're on foot, you've got no other protection from the elements, so you've got a thick coat on. But when you get home, say for example, you get home and it's a nice, warm, cosy, air-conditioned home. as soon as you get in, do you keep your coat on all the time that you're indoors? No, you don't. You take the coat off. Why? Because you don't need it anymore. And that's the idea that of the transition to a natural law resource-based economy, where I say that we need to create the systems that provide for our life needs, so we don't need money anymore. It's not that we abolish money, we just make it obsolete. It's just like when Richard Buckminster Fuller said, you don't change things by fighting the existing reality. In order to change something, build a new model which makes the existing model obsolete. So, property itself, it's a byproduct of scarcity. Because we've, as a species, we've always lived within scarcity. We haven't had the means to create the conditions where people won't need to fight in order to survive. Before in history, that was actually the case. If we, what I mean by that is, it was the case that we didn't have those things in place. We didn't have the technology to provide for everyone. So if you weren't aggressive or greedy, or akin to hoarding and stuff like that, you did not survive. You had to do those things in order to survive. But now we have the technology to make that completely unnecessary. So why don't we employ it on the large scale basis? Well, that will put many, many people out of work. So, it's either we keep people employed and a certain amount of people, and an increasing amount of people, in fact, will have less and less and less and start dying off. Or you have no one having to be a slave and everyone can have their life needs met. I know which one I'd prefer. But essentially, the main point that I wish to communicate about the idea of property is that in a resource-based economic model, or natural law resource-based economy, whatever you want to call it, private property is in fact a burden. It's a burden. I mean, I myself, I still own, I got this like when I was 17, or I think it was 17 or 18. I've got a Yamaha musical keyboard. It's a big chunky thing, and I'm going to be putting that on eBay and selling it at some point, because I just want to get rid of junk in my life, because I recognise that, just as Tyler Durden said in the film Fight Club, the things you own end up owning you, and so many things that we have in our life that we think has relevance or applicability to our lives, when in fact they don't. And property has always been a burden. And the reason why there won't be such an emphasis on personal property in a natural law resource-based economy is because a resource-based economy doesn't need to focus on creating this mentality in society where we're fixated on property. Excuse me. In a resource-based economy, there is no market to need to create wants to sell products so that people can make money, because there is no need for that sort of thing anymore. We can create provide life needs for everyone on the planet. We don't need to advertise it to them. We don't need to persuade people to purchasing certain products because no one needs to make any money. There's no reason whatsoever that it's not that personal property is eradicated or outlawed in a resource-based economy. It's that there's no need for it anymore. There's no structural reinforcement for the idea itself. But that's it's, I mean, there's one George Carlin bit actually that talks about the absurdity of this. It's I think it's like More Room for My Stuff, I think it's called. If you just type in George Carlin stuff into YouTube, you should find it. It was one of his early ones, I think, in the 70s. But it's just awesome how he was brilliant with his memory in remembering all the different things, and it starts to make you wonder about all the little knickknacks that you hold on to, like ornamental things or little things that you think serve a utility, that, women normally carry around in their handbag. There's, like hairbrush and compact and, all that sort of stuff. But, when you're staying, because the example that George Carlin uses is that if you go over to someone else's house to stay over, and there's a certain amount of things that you take with you in order to make sure that you're brushing your teeth, and that you've got deodorant, whatever, right? And it's just like the amount of stuff that we carry around is just completely redundant, But just thought I'd mention that. That's all about private property. Okay. So second question, you wanna grow your own food. Okay. Well, it depends on exactly how much room do you need. Not in the case of, we've got plots that are specifically this size. Does that suit your needs? Or we got this size. Is that big enough for you? Well, how much do you actually need? Because you may need a little less than what is actually available, especially if you're only growing food for yourself. We got to look at the actual. It's almost like the. I think it was the. Was it Karl Marx that said for each according to his needs, and whatever the rest was. But yeah, you look at it that way, and you've also got to consider: are you planting stuff in the ground? In which case, the location that you will require has to have healthy topsoil. It has to have ample sunlight to encourage photosynthesis. The conditions have to be right. Or maybe you're using hydroponics, in which case you won't necessarily need land per se. You'll just need a small footprint, especially, like I said, if you're just growing for yourself. I mean, you can do this. I mean, anyone with their own, like, a modest back garden, I don't know. I mean, what is around about what size is a modest back garden? I don't know. But yeah, like, say, if you had a small garden, you could grow things hydroponically. But also, I mean, not to say that you can't do this, but there isn't necessarily the need to, because each locality, like, say, for example, the circular cities that Jacques Fresco from the Venus Project talks about, there is actually an agricultural belt in the city itself. So food is produced where you live, in the city that you live. In a natural law resource based economy, it will probably be quite similar. There will be maybe a power production plant like a solar array or a wind farm, depending on where it is. I mean, you could be living out in the ocean. There's obviously going to be a desalination plant right there. There's going to be tidal and wave energy generation mediums there. Likewise with food production, because you don't have any soil to plant things in. If you're living in the ocean, then you're forced to have to go hydroponically. So you will be growing food hydroponically to live on. So it depends on what you would like, and I dare say there will be an organic, non-GMO vertical farm that in your locality that is constantly cranking out food for the local population. There will be one there, so you don't have to grow your own food, but if you want to grow your own food, that's fucking good. That's cool. You're doing, you can do things for yourself if you want, and in fact, that's a great thing, because at least then people don't forget, survival skills. Like if there were to be anything cataclysmic, and trust me, it would have to be severely, biblically cataclysmic to take down all the systems of a resource-based economy at once. At least then, in that very unlikely scenario, at least then human beings will still know how to plant things in dirt, to grow things, and how to build structures themselves, how to orient ourselves and educate ourselves. We shouldn't lose those kinds of skills. So by all means, if you want to grow your own stuff, then brilliant. That's great. But yeah, just as I noticed, there will be a vertical farm, so you won't. So even if you'll have that to fall back. I mean, like say for example, if you want to learn like hydroponics or conventional agriculture as a hobby, you can do that, and you can be provided any assistance that you like. If you don't want any assistance, that's completely fine. But if you come up against any bumps out in your road and you're not providing enough for yourself to live on, there's a vertical farm right down the road. Anyway, but on to your third question. Just to let you know, it's okay if people have little things that they want like baseball cards. I don't really think baseball cards are really very resource intensive. There's multiple forms of baseball card. You could even have like a little 3D printer to print a little baseball card or whatever. I mean, yeah, it's not really a big deal. No one's going to come and take your stuff. It just depends on the resource expenditure. Whether there's a large enough demand for it. If there's enough people who say they want to collect baseball cards, then by all means, baseball cards will be entered into like a good optimal process of manufacture as something that is something that is demanded enough to say, yeah, enough people want this, so we should be cranking it out all the time. Thing is, I suspect baseball cards does not really fall into the categories of something that enough people would demand, as a life need or whatever. But coming to the hair comb thing, combs are something that can be shared. I mean, there's certain instances where if someone has head lice or whatever, then obviously sharing a comb is an infection. It's an infection control matter. So you wouldn't be using the same towel as someone, the same bath towel as someone who has thrush. So there's certain things that should be tailored for individual use because of the consideration of what sharing results in. But think about it like using someone else's toothbrush. I mean, some people do share toothbrushes, but some people might not want to. Especially if you know where their mouth has been. But anyway, I'm wasting loads of time getting into little things, so I should really power ahead with the next question. So on we go. Question 2.